In this game, we're going to take a look at not giving up the game simply because we give up the monarch, as well as utilizing all the pieces to the maximum, right? We want to leverage everything that we have and we want to prepare for the end game. So let's get into it. We start off with an e4, e5, knight f3, d4. We're playing the scotch here. We want to change it up a little bit. Typically, there's going to be a Rui Lopez or something along those lines, but let's have some fun with it. He captures. Now, we go from the scotch over to the Goring Gambit. Let's have a little bit more fun with it. Regardless of the rating of the opponent, let's have some fun with it, right? Win, lose, draw, just have fun. So he plays queen up to e7. Now, what we notice immediately is that this queen is blocking in that bishop on e7. So he's causing himself some congestion here. He's going to make it harder for himself to get castled, and that's what our goal is. So let's catch him while his queen and king are still on this e file. Let's utilize that. He's hurting his own development. Let's maximize that. And we see that here it is on move number 4, right? Here we go. So what we see is that we move this bishop up, not so we can defend this pawn, right? Yes, but no. Our goal is to quickly get castled and quickly get that rook into the fight. It would behoove us if this e-pawn disappeared. It would help us hurt black's position. So he helps us. Now, what we see is that this light squared bishop is going to get available, is going to get developed, is going to be able to get into the fight, get aggressive. And we want to try to minimize that to the best of our ability. Also, what we notice is that by him moving this d pawn, he potentially has the want to swing for a queenside castle, bringing that rook to bear on that d file, potentially. All thoughts. We pull king over immediately. We're not looking for king safety, but we are. We're actually looking to get that rook into the fight. So here we go. We capture. A move ago, we notice that he has 1, 2 attackers, but we only have 1 defender. So it appears that this e4 pawn falls until we remember that the whole reason we wanted to get that castle was so that we can swing that rook. And now we can see it out to play. Capture, capture. Our light squared bishop gets centralized and starts to cause threats where we're attacking this knight. We're running the risk of pulling this rook behind. And now we have a discovered attack on that queen and that king, which are in the center of the board. So there's a problem here. He pushes the pawn. So similar in like the Smith-Morris gambit, where we notice that black may capture that d pawn with his c pawn and then push it. That's where white doesn't have the ability to utilize his c3 square for his knight. Looks like he's trying to do the same thing here, and he's doing a great job of it. I don't have the ability to use that knight on c3 anymore, which is going to weaken my control over that d5 and over that e4. I capture. So what we do here is we make it so that black has an isolated pawn and then double isolated pawns here. Now in a king pawn endgame, it should be much easier to win the game. We pull rook over. The goal is not to win this queen. It's not going to happen. We're not going to be able to pick off that queen. But what we will be able to do is to restrict his light squared bishop to guard duty, to defense. So instead of that light squared bishop being able to get out and get active and play where I'm sure it would like to, where it has good scope and it has good activity and it has good influence, we restrict it to playing defense. We capture the pawn. It's not about the material here. It's not about the material. I don't care about that pawn. What I care about is that we have to remember the queen is half bishop and half rook. We always talk about giving your bishops more scope, making your bishops have good active positions. And that's what we want to do with the queen here. The queen is the master of the double attack in this game. And we want to be able to use her for what she's good at. We put knights in holes. We put bishops on open diagonals. We put rooks on open files. And we let the queen do what she does best with that double attack. So here we're trying to bait this rook to come over to attack. so that the queen can swing down and attack this a7 pawn and this c6 pawn. Queen comes up. So clearly here, the opponent's trying to get us to help him fix his pawn structure or get developed quicker. We don't want to do either of those two things. We don't want to help the opponent fix the problems that he has or that they have. So he pushes his c pawn here. Clearly, he's trying to do the same thing. He's trying to offer that exchange so that we can help him fix his position. We don't want to do that. We play queen down. 1, we're attacking the rook. 2, we're attacking that pawn. We're forcing him to make a choice. Do you want to give me the pawn and make it so you have a hard endgame? Or do you want to undevelop your piece, meaning that you're going to have to take one more move to redevelop it? So you're going to lose 2 moves, essentially, not including the move that they initially took to get the queen out. Rook over, giving me the pawn. Knight comes up. He knows that there's a problem. He knows that he's under siege, and he's trying to find more material, more resources to be able to fight this fight. So we could have played knight out, just like a receiver. Just like a receiver in football, we could have brought this knight out to go run a route so that the knight and the queen could have worked together to cause more problems in his camp, forcing him to stop his development and deal with our threat, or to lose more material, making it harder to win this endgame. But we pull the bishop out. The thought process behind the bishop was, hey, I want to pull the bishop out, then pull the knight out so that I can utilize that rook to terrorize his position more while simultaneously developing pieces. Bishop comes up. It's clear here he's just trying to get developed. Knight starts to run that route, pulling the a3 so that it can pull to b5 so that it can support an attack on c7. He castles. So now we have to worry, right? These 2 rooks are now connected. So now he can use these in a fight. Knight comes down, continuing to run that route, creating that double attack. c7, d6, c7, queen comes over. So this was a miscalculation on my point. What I'm looking at here is that we have 2 attackers on the c7 square. Yes, the knight's unprotected, but also this bishop's unprotected. So what I'm saying is that queen captures knight, queen captures bishop, queen captures pawn, bishop captures knight, pawn captures bishop, queen captures pawn, protecting this c3 pawn. So yes, after he takes this b2 pawn, I'll have gapped pawns, but he will still have these double pawns here, and he'll have isolated pawns here. Should be an easy endgame to win. Not to mention, I still have this pass pawn, right? In my mind, should be an easy game. So we start this combination. Capture, capture, capture. Everything's going to plan until that rook comes up to d7, and suddenly my heart drops and my eyes start to water. And I have to remember the words of Gotham Chess. Just because the royalty is not on the board does not mean the game is over. You can still win without the royalty. So I keep up the fight, I keep up the effort, and I realize here I have to maximize everything that I have. All the pawns, the rooks, the knight, the bishop, everything has to fight together as a team if I want a chance at these overwhelming odds, at this superior force. So we capture that knight. Rook captures. We capture. Rook comes over. Notice that there's nothing protecting this rook here. So he's essentially putting himself in a pin. I don't care about the bishop. Take it if you dare. We push the pawn on the queen. Like Fisher said, if you have passed pawns, you push them, and that's what we do. He pulls back. I'm doubling down. I'm committed to this attack. If he wants to win, he can win, but I will make him earn it. You want to win? That's fine. Prove to me how bad you want it. Take the pawn if you want to, because as we see here, if you take the pawn, notice this back rank, right? This back rank only has this rook protecting it. So the second this b2 pawn leaves, now I can start to swing this rook over to a more active file where the rook can control that B file and potentially use that as an anchor point for that pawn. So if the pawn makes it to A7, now rook suddenly comes down to B8, he's going to have a problem. Notice that this king doesn't have a way to exfiltrate. The king is trapped back here behind his own pawns. He can't get out. So he's a sitting duck for anything that touches that eighth rank. Queen comes back, pulling the queen back. So I pull the bishop back to g5, and let's talk about this for a moment. The reason I pulled to g5 here instead of h4 is because I see that I'm going to run this pawn down this a file, and I don't see how the bishop being on h4 or then g3 is going to help me with the mobilization of that a pawn. I don't see it. I think it's probably better to swing this bishop back here to e3 so the bishop can now protect a7 as the pawn makes it to a7, or even have the ability to swing back here to d2 so that I can protect these pawns as they make it up to these dark squares. That's my thought process. Rook swings over. He's trying to stop that queening square and stop the advancement of that pawn. So here, I want to take away my opponent's ability to win on the queen side of the board. The second that pawn leaves, now I put him on his heels. Now he has to play defense. He has to make a choice what to do here. If he captures, I capture. And now I have two connected pass pawns. But notice, one of them queens on a light square when he has a light squared bishop. What the other one will queen on a dark square when I have a dark squared bishop to support. He has a problem here. He captures. I capture. Bada boom, bada bing. Now I have two connected pass pawns that can both be supported by my rooks from the rear. So these rooks will act as tanks and help these pawns march down these open roads or these open files so that they can promote. Queen down. He's looking for a weakness. I play bishop down, and the reason I do is because I'm looking at potentially using this bishop to protect this b pawn and maybe anchoring it here on c5. Now I recognize that the moment I anchor that bishop on c5, I run the risk of losing that bishop as this pawn advances down the board. But that was my thought process initially. So he plays h7. He's giving his king a way to exfiltrate. Rook swings over. Queen swings. And so immediately what I'm picking up on is that, yes, he can attack this g2 pawn. Yes, he can bring his light squared bishop to help stop the movement of that a pawn, as well as to attack that g7 pawn, g2 pawn. But what I'm thinking is that I can simply swing the knight back here to e1, where it will be protected by the rook, and then it will support that g2 pawn. I push the pawn. I keep running. I keep pushing. Let's push the enemy. Let's force him to make bad moves by running that pawn down there. He brings bishop up. This is what we anticipated. Yes, he's attacking that knight. Yes, he's attacking that pawn. Yes, the pawn is pinned. And yes, he's playing for mate. We swing the knight back. There was other moves on the board, but we didn't see it at the moment. We swing the knight back. That was the plan that we had preconceived, and we didn't stop to look for a better move. So he brings rook over, and immediately my heart drops. My eyes start to water, and I think that there's a huge problem. Notice that if this bishop moves, he's going to take this knight and then remove the defender for this g2 pawn. So immediately after I recapture, this is going to be mate that lands. Not sure what to do here. So the only plan that I come up with is force him into a position he doesn't want to be in and essentially give up one of my passed pawns. Only one, though. Only one. Push. Capture. Check. Capture. Check. King up. I feel like I'm in a good position here. I play knight out. And then I lose that pawn. And then I realize, okay, well, this is a draw game. So much so that in this position, after I connect those two rooks, bring them together to work as a team, I offer a draw. He declines. He's still pushing. He wants that victory. I don't see it for him. So he's trying to advance the pawn here to g4 to kick that kingside castle guard. I spike that g4 square, stopping that pawn from advancing. He won't take no for an answer. Continuing. Now he wants to push, have it supported. I bring rook back, trying to make it so he cannot bring in more reinforcements for fear of losing his material. Push, capture, capture. I move the rook up here. So I start to make mistakes here over and over. Maybe we can get through one or two, but when we make so many of them in a row, it becomes a problem. He pushes pawn. He's closing the position and potentially trying to play for a mate over here on the back rank, using this pawn to hold me in. Knight comes back. I'm thinking the knight's going to cover this e1 square, and if the queen comes down, the rook can play down and stop the queen. He plays down, and then immediately I realize, hey, there's a double attack here. This is a problem. I can't save both of them, or maybe I can. I play down and right into the hands of the mate. So we get to see here, even through this loss, is piece placement, right? I did not need to use that bishop up close and personal. The bishop could have sat back here on g3 and supported the movement of those pawns. Also, a little bit more vision to realize that, hey, I'm going to create those double pass pawns so the bishop can sit back here and support. The rooks have the ability to work well as a team by sitting back here on a1 and a2, supporting the movement. The knight worked amazingly as a kingside castle guard, as it's supposed to, but it also would have been supported by that bishop sitting here on g3. I would have had all of the fight, all of the aggression, all of the initiative, while my opponent would have been forced into a defensive position, trying to stop the overwhelming force of those two pawns marching down that A and B file,